welcome to ScreenHour with me, Kieran.
And me, Malkin.
Where we will discuss the latest releases of films, series and games regarding our own impressions and experiences. We will also warn you before we deep dive into any spoilers. In this episode, I'm going to discuss certain scenes from Top Gun Maverick in order to determine what I believe is the perfect scene. Now, Top Gun Maverick is quite possibly my second most watched film of all time. It's not even a year old at this point. Now, some of you may be wondering where Mikey may be in this episode. We've had a bit of a falling out, and basically, he knows where he can go. No, I'm only joking. Me and Mikey are good as gold. There's nothing wrong there. We just thought it'd be nice to bring a different variation to the podcast, and Mikey will do something similar on a topic he's passionate about. And for those of you who like our much longer back and forth episodes in Infra, they will still be the very core of what we do. We just thought it'd be nice to have our own little passion projects within ScreenHour. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So what do I consider to be the perfect scene? Now, this is completely my own opinion. You may agree, you may disagree, but this is sort of how I base my understanding of a perfect scene and why it becomes a perfect scene to me. Straight off the bat, the very first thing I think that creates the perfect scene is character building. The scene builds on a character that we've come to know, and it adds a new element, a new dynamic to their embodiment as such. So it's something completely different we haven't seen before, and it adds another layer. Tension. Am I on the edge of my seat? This can be done through multiple different ways. I mean, tension can be done through like time limits, like the ticking time bomb. It can be done through a literal time limitation, but it could also be done by the intensity of a situation that keeps you on the edge of your seat because it is building up to an explosive moment. Emotion is something I think belongs in every perfect scene. If I do not feel emotionally connected to that scene whatsoever, there is no hope in hell's chance it will ever be a perfect scene. I need to be absolutely crying with laughter or crying in pure depression and pain and sadness. I need to feel what that character is going through. So the theme of the film, what is the film's theme? What is this film trying to do? What is its underlining focus and takeaway? The scene in particular conveys the theme of the film without sort of overdoing it, sort of without basically saying this is the theme, but it's, if you want to look for it, you can see that it's there. I think that's sort of like the best way I can probably describe that without saying too many details. And yeah, because I'll explain more as I go on. And for the fifth characteristic, let's call it, is subtlety. I think the perfect scene doesn't need to be loud and shouty. Rather, it needs to be delicate and precious and draw us in. A character is shouting and screaming on screen. You're not necessarily leaning forward on your seat, are you? Whereas if they're more delicate and precious or whispering, I mean, this is a generalization. It doesn't mean this needs to be exactly like this for the perfect scene, but if there is that sort of delicate, precious moment and it draws you in, it's pulling you in, it's the subtlety of the moment. And it could be subtlety just through sound, through acting, through facial expressions, through set design. It's just the subtlety of the moment and how well that works along with character building, your tension, your emotion and your theme. All five don't need to be prevalent in the scene to make it a perfect scene, but if they've got four of the five, I think it becomes pretty damn close to becoming a perfect scene. So let's go through that again. Character building, tension, emotion, theme, and subtlety. Those could change as time goes on and my mind changes. But at the moment, the way it stands, that's how I view it. Top Gun Maverick. It is an incredible film. It is a brilliant film. It's amazing. I love it to bits. As I say, it's my second most viewed film. It's not even a year old yet. It's my go-to. It's just something I always throw on. Once I watch, back it, we'll watch a Maverick. So right off the cuff, I'll let you know now, spoilers completely from here on out. If you have not seen Top Gun Maverick, where have you been? But also, please don't let me spoiler this for you. So, yeah, right, jumping straight into it then. The beginning of the film is great. We've got a lot of brilliant moments. The opening scene, that is incredible. He's then returning back to Top Gun. He's meeting Penny at the bar. These are all, it's all good. It's all good stuff. But we don't want good stuff. We're looking for perfect stuff. About 55 minutes in, Maverick goes to visit Iceman. The bit where they're sat down, they're looking at the computer screen, and it's, I want to talk about work. Maverick starts to seem rather upbeat. He's happy to see his friend. But then Ice points back at the screen line. Look, don't pander to me. I want to talk about work. Right, I'm still the Admiral, even in my state. And then, in a sense, this is introducing an element of a ticking time bomb. Because there is still time, but the kid's not ready, as Maverick says. Right? And Maverick builds on this emotion from this point, and he knows there is limited time left on where he thinks Rooster could be right for the job. But Maverick isn't ready to admit that, whether Rooster is ready or not. Because he's saying, don't ask me to send someone else to die. Send me. Maverick is so caught up on Goose that he can't see that he isn't trapping Rooster, which has led to the resentment. Hence, on the screen, it says it's time to let go. Now, Tom's performance here absolutely sells the theme of the entire film. He is still grieving the loss of Goose, and he can't bear to send Rooster into harm's way and suffer the same fate, which he knows this next mission is highly capable of a fatality. The added emotion you get on a second watch is knowing that Rooster's mother didn't want him joining the Navy either, and Maverick is carrying that burden. But Maverick doesn't want to lose Rooster like he lost Goose. The pause, where he looks back at the screen and composes himself for a moment, really sends the emotions home. If anyone in this situation is to succeed, you need to let go. But that scene, it finishes with a joke, right? And it breaks the emotional tension that we have amounted to, and it allows us to let it out in laughter rather than a depression of tears. It builds up this emotion. You're feeling all of this emotion inside you, but you haven't quite choked yet. And then they break it all with a joke. At the 1 hour, 4 minute mark, we have the lovemaking scene between Maverick and Penny. The love scene is implied, but nothing's shown. We just see, and dare I say, the aftermath of the lying, talking, and laughing and chatting on the bed. It shows a mature, loving sex scene compared to almost every sex scene in any other movie. If you wanted to show lovemaking scene over a sex scene, this would be it. It tastefully shows you what is going to happen, but we move on to the talking and the afterfact, because this film is running with its main theme of maturity, really. It's showing how much Maverick has matured and dealing with everything in the most mature way possible. And this scene shows one of the most mature moments in its whole film. Maverick says, "You and Amelia seem a lot closer than the last time I saw you." That is maturity right there. Now, he remembers their past. He's aware of things and brings them up. What kind of 20 or even 30-year-old would say something like that after sex? It's never going to happen. Penny says, I had to trust her and let her make her own mistakes, because through that we mature. So in essence, echoing what Iceman has said, which is to let go. Let Rooster make his own mistake, but rather be there to catch him if he falls type of mentality. Again, maturity. Is that what happened with Rooster? Says Penny. The mood shifts in Maverick's eyes here, and he weighs up telling Penny the truth of why Rooster resents him. If anyone is going to understand what he did, it will be Penny. Penny learns that Maverick pulled a dick move by pulling his papers and forcing him to endure a further 4 years to get to the goal of Top Gun. You see the shock in her eyes, but then, she made me promise before she died. You will always resent me for what I did. Why should he resent her too? This fucking line This moment is the most mature thing I have ever experienced in a film. To the point it had me in tears at how much I respected Maverick and the decisions he has made to help protect the son he doesn't have. The moment then comes crashing down as Amelia arrives home and Maverick jumps out of the window. Another brilliant, emotional, thought-provoking, character-building moment broken by a comedic break to help alleviate that built-up emotion. It was on the verge of greatness, but again, it was broken by that comedic break, and it doesn't ruin the film at all, but does it ruin the perfect scene? At the 1 hour 20 mark, Maverick does his practice course to prove the mission can be done. Now, this scene, in my opinion, is incredible. It emphasizes on the subtlety of sound and effects. We're on that jet with Maverick, feeling the G-force through his breaths, through his facial convulsions. The added element of time limit keeps you on the edge of your seat, and the conclusion allows you to realize that the mission can be achieved within the time frame. But comparing this scene to the other scenes I've mentioned, it doesn't hit in the feels as much as it was. But I just felt it was worth mentioning that scene, because that scene is incredible. 1 hour 28 mark. Rooster and Maverick are on the aircraft carrier, about to jump into their F-18s for the mission. Maverick comes face to face with Rooster after making his decision to send him on the mission. Now here you can see the reluctancy in Maverick's eyes. Rooster comes up to Maverick as Maverick's sort of checking over his F-18, and Maverick sort of gives him a side glance, kind of thing like, oh, it's Rooster, and I don't know if it's intentional or what, but there's a glint, there is something in his eye where I'm like, Maverick doesn't want to talk to him before this mission because he doesn't want to change his mind, basically. He's hoping that without seeing him, he doesn't realize what he's forcing Rooster to do. Not forcing him, but what he's sending Rooster to go and do. The build-up for an emotional moment to come is ruined by a tannoy microphone, and that added element of time before the launch. They have but a few moments to go. So we've got the tension, right? We had the emotional moment, but it was broken. So in this instance, they both understand the weight of the situation. We'll talk when we get back. It's always a cop-out in most films when something super emotional was about to happen, but rather than ruin the theme of the film, they choose not to do it and let the audience create that moment in their own heads and what could have been said. However, even after the interruptions and the brief, I won't say it till we get back moment, Maverick realizes that he has to reaffirm Rooster, if not for Rooster's sake, but for his own, where he calls out to Rooster multiple times to help ease the tension of the moment. We won't say what needs to be said, but I will calm both of their nerves. It's very much something a father would do. Now, this scene is small and somewhat insignificant. It doesn't change the story. The emotions that are in the air really lend this scene a hand, because in this moment, Rooster seemingly forgives Maverick, which is what Maverick wanted. But he needs Rooster to know it because he's ready. You've got this. Now, the 1:30 mark, through to the end of the film, basically, is just cinema mastery. It is an incredible storytelling, and the emotions keep you on the edge of your seat constantly. I have never been so fixated on a cinema screen, and through the hundreds of times I've watched this film, from this point on, nothing can distract me, because it is just me and Maverick riding this right to the end of the film, because it is fucking incredible. And the moment with once they've come up over the mountain and they're starting getting shot at by the missiles, and then they're popping their flares, that is just breathtaking. It's action and cinematography at its finest. It is a very complete package of action. It is beautifully done. Now, at the 1:41 mark, 1:42 mark, Maverick is not dead. Now, this is the twist I wanted to happen. There was one of two conclusions to Maverick's story. He lives or he dies. Killing off Maverick would have killed this film right in its track, and everything leading up to this moment would have been forgotten about. all we would talk about is Maverick dying, and the film would just become another boring reboot or late sequel with no true substance, a cash grab. However, Maverick lived. And this is one of the film's greatest strengths. Maverick sacrificed himself to save Rooster. He knew this was going to come about. There was no way in Maverick's eyes he was going to return home without Rooster. So if the choice came, he would take the bullet. He chose. However, Rooster ends up saving Maverick, and because he's run out of flares, he gets shot down, to which his parachute opens in the distance, and Maverick just launches himself across the terrain. And as he arrives at Rooster, he just throws his entire momentum into Rooster, throwing him back. You think I took that missile so you could be down here with me? You should be back on the aircraft carrier by now. I saved your life. I saved your life. That's the whole point. I like how they identify the plot trope here of the elder sacrificing themselves for the younger, but it doesn't turn out the way it would in, air quotes, the movies. But the film doesn't end with a simple rescue. They push themselves on an overlook of a runway they earlier destroyed in a very Where Eagles Dare fashion. Was it intentional? I'm going to assume so. Maverick thought his sacrifice was enough, but now he needs to do the impossible and get Rooster out alive, which coincidentally means getting himself out alive. So they steal back the F-14 and launch themselves back into the air towards the aircraft carrier, but they're under attack from 2 enemy fighters. You'd go after them if I wasn't here, but you are here. Don't think, just do. And Maverick immediately just does. The whole weight of let go has finally got to him. He needs to let go and do what he does best. If you're too busy thinking about someone else, you can't perform at your best because you're still thinking about the other person. But in this moment, he finally lets go. He knows I need to do what I do best, and I'll get us home. The scene that unfolds is incredible, to say very little. But the moment that sticks in my head is when Maverick tells Rooster to eject, and it's not working. The musical score, the intensity of that moment just hit so hard. I just get a rush of emotions, especially after the fact that Goose died by smacking off the canopy. And you dread to see a repeat of that situation, but it's quickly diffused by the one and only saviour, Hangman. So, there are a multitude of scenes in this film that could be perfect, but there is only one scene for me that hits hard emotionally every time I see it. It has a build-up of tension for what could come to fruition, and it isn't diffused in a comedic manner. Instead, it doubles down on the theme and the moment to the point that you, the audience, are brought into the scene. And for me, I've got to say the perfect scene from Top Gun Maverick is the piano scene. About 31 minutes into the film, the Rooster is playing the piano and there's others in the bar that join him for the sing-along. Maverick hears the music and instantly flashes back to the last time he heard that song. Now, the circumstances of that moment, the music is subtle and the tone is subtle. There is also a brilliant juxtaposition between the guys in the bar singing their heads off and Maverick just solemnly looking through the window, and it creates this type of tension because we want to know exactly what is going through Maverick's mind. The acting is subtle yet perfectly emotional, and I want to cry. I want to feel this sort of emotion that is being portrayed, but I'm not quite there yet. But then you see Penny. Penny's cleaning up the bar. She notices Maverick through the window, and then she looks to see where he's looking and sees Rooster playing the piano. History and timeline between the two films, a lot has happened that we learn throughout this film, right? So Penny is understanding of the situation. She's aware that Rooster is Goose's son. Penny is seeing this. You see it unraveling before her mind, and you see her looking out the window at Maverick, and you see her understanding. And I feel like seeing the realization come across her face of what Maverick is thinking, what Maverick is feeling, I feel like it pulls us more into the scene because, in essence, we become Penny. We are all on the outside, and we are watching Maverick through the window looking at Rooster, and Penny is doing the exact same thing. And it's every time this scene comes up, I've always got that sort of emotion. I've always got the tears are ready, but it's not until I see Penny and notice Maverick until my tears start flowing. And as I said, I've watched this film countless times, and I cry every single time. And it's just, I just think it's pure raw emotions, because I fully understand the situation. And this is without knowing the rest of the film. This is, your first time viewing it, and this is the thing you get introduced to right at the beginning. You understand, and it doesn't sort of tell you should feel this emotion. It shows you why you should be feeling this emotion, and that's a big thing. It should be, don't tell me how I feel, make me feel that way. The heightened emotions, juxtaposition between Maverick and the crew in the bar, followed by Penny's realization, along with the subtle musical undertone, the flashback that work great if you've never seen this first film, but you feel the emotion straight away, and all of it topped off with Tom Cruise's performance. It is quite possibly the best acting he has ever done. I mean, this film in particular, he does incredible acting, but that scene, yeah, it gets me every time, and I can't help but put that scene as the perfect scene for Top Gun Maverick. It builds his character. It has tension. It has emotion. It conveys the theme of the film, and it's subtle. It's delicate and it's precious in its presentation. And I said at the beginning of this that if a scene hits 4 of the 5, it's great contender for the perfect scene. But the fact that this scene hits all 5, yeah, it's undoubtedly the perfect scene. What scene would I put in second place, though? Oh, that's a harder choice, but I think I would have to go with the bedroom scene, where Maverick says, "He will always resent me for what I did. Why should he resent her too?" Thanks for watching. Do let me know if you agree, or rather disagree with my pick down in the comments. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.